It was the 4th of July, 2014. While most people would have been sleeping at the most insane hour of 3 a.m., the Troop 701 Philmont crew was getting ready to leave for the trip. After pulling an all-nighter at our crew leader's house the previous night, we hit the road, and soon we were on our way on our 6:30-something flight to Denver. We were going to the Philmont Scout Ranch in Cimarron, New Mexico, about to have the adventure of our lives. We arrived in Colorado that morning, more than slightly delirious from the lack of sleep. Our tour guide met up with us, and we were on our way to Red Rocks Park. We kicked off the experience by hiking in the park in the agonizing Midwestern sun and noticeably thinner atmosphere at a much higher elevation. The next day, we toured the Garden of the Gods and took the picturesque tram up to the summit of Pikes Peak. On the third day out there, we headed to base camp. Here, our tour guide dropped us off and we met up with our ranger, Max. He took us through the registration routine at Philmont, and after an opening campfire that night, we stopped in Tent City for the night, getting plenty of rest before the first day of hiking. Day 1 wasn't too bad, just 3 miles, but it was one of the most memorable. With packs heavy with the next 4 days worth of food, Crew 706Q2 hiked into the wilderness on our 12-day excursion, stopping at the infamous Lover's Leap Cliff and staying for the night at the similarly named Lover's Leap Camp. Day 2 was easy as well. The crew hiked out of Lover's Leap, climbing to the base of Uraka Mesa. It only took us 2 hours to get to Uraka Camp, and there, the staff took us through the challenge course program they had planned for us. Through it, we gained valuable team building skills, which we would use throughout the rest of the trek. Day 3 was when it started to hit us. We woke up bright and early at 4:30 a.m. for a sunrise hike to the mesa. Max left us on our own that day, so it was truly the first test of our abilities. I remember the sun that day being punishing, as we hiked through the treeless highlands and high desert on our southward voyage to Abreu Camp. A few of us got bad sunburns, so needless to say, to take off our packs for a few hours was much needed and well deserved. We stopped for a root beer at the Abreu Cantina, then continued on a short 1-mile hike to our camp for the night, Carson Meadows. Here, we participated in search and rescue drills and activities, as well as wishing a happy birthday to Alex Mansour, our crew chef. Day 4 was one of the hardest days. A grueling 15-mile death march with almost no views through the Rayado Ravine along a virtually flat stretch of land led to a lot of sore feet and bored minds. Oh, did I mention we all had 30-something pound packs on? Once we got to the fish camp, it poured. We assembled our flies and fished in a drizzle before hiking under an overcast sky to Agua Fria camp for the night. The next day was pretty boring as well. After a moderately long hike and a food pickup, we spent 3 hours building trails. We hiked to Crooked Creek for the night, where it hailed on us. From this day out, we got hailed on every afternoon.
I can see clearly now the rain. It's like natural paintball.
Day 6 was probably the highlight of the trip for me. We hiked up to Clear Creek and shot black powder rifles, then proceeded on the hellish ascent up to the summit of 11,742 foot high Mount Phillips. The hike was hard, and it took a lot of time, but we made it. The views from the top were really rewarding, and we had a good time chilling with our new friends from California who were on the same trek as us. We decided to sleep in the next day, because we had a pretty easy hike ahead of us. After waking up at a nice and late 6:30 a.m. on the 7th day, we strapped up and headed down off of Phillips into Sawmill Camp. After a torrential storm and witnessing a bolt of lightning completely shred a tree, we shot homemade ammunition from 30-06 rifles. This was one of the best days because it was really when the crew started to click. By this point, we were working together really well. We wished Mike Williams a happy birthday, then finished our day with a sunset through Sawmill Canyon. We hiked through the canyon bright and early the next morning, stopping for a food pickup and coming into Ute Springs Camp. What a terrible camp. Flies everywhere, no water, and a rundown campsite led to a pretty bad afternoon there. Some of us traveled to Cimarroncito Camp, though, and spent the day rock climbing at the top of Cito Ridge. The next day we headed into Clark's Fork, where we spent the afternoon horseback riding. On day 11 we faced the greatest challenge of all, the Tooth of Time. The Tooth is the iconic mountain peak visible from base camp, and made for a great end to our hike. It took us a lot to get up to the ridge, and we really had to work to make sure everyone could do it. We finally got into the campsite that afternoon with our friends from Cali, and after the biggest hailstorm of the trip and the snowball fight that followed, we made the near vertical scramble up to the summit. The views were incredible, and it was the perfect end to the trip. All the hard work had paid off, and looking down from that summit, I could see every single place we had gone on our close to 70-mile route. I saw all the places where we had faced hardships, and I saw all the places where we had excelled. All the hard work had paid off, and the reward was breathtaking. Day 12 was easy. We basically sprinted down from Tooth Ridge, covering more than 6 miles in a little less than 2 hours. We broke our record time into camp, which was previously 9:45 a.m. at Uraka, by almost a half hour. At the end of the trek, and at the threshold of base camp, we passed under a sign that said, "Welcome back, you made it." Honestly, I couldn't have thought of a statement more fitting.